You are looking at the most important substance in human history. Not gold, not iron, not oil. Salt. A tiny white crystal that your body cannot produce, cannot store for long, and cannot live without. Remove it completely, and you die within days. Ancient humans knew this, not from science, not from research, from watching people disappear. And for most of human history, finding salt was not a convenience. It was a matter of life and death. Today, you shake it onto your food without thinking. You rinse it down the drain when you cook pasta. You avoid it because your doctor told you to. But 100,000 years ago, a single handful of salt was worth more than your life. This is the story of how ancient humans found it, fought for it, died for it, and built entire civilizations around it. Here's something most people never think about. Your body is approximately 60% water, but that water is not pure. It is salt water. Every single cell in your body sits inside a solution of sodium and water, almost identical to the ocean. This is not a coincidence. Life on Earth began in the sea, and when ancient creatures first crawled onto land hundreds of millions of years ago, they carried the ocean inside them. Your blood, your tears, your sweat, all of them taste faintly of salt because they are salt water. And sodium controls how your muscles contract, how your nerves fire, how your heart beats, how your brain sends signals. Without enough sodium, your muscles stop working, your heart develops dangerous rhythms, your brain begins to swell. First comes confusion, then weakness, then seizures, then death. This is not a slow process. Severe sodium deficiency can kill a healthy adult in less than a week. Ancient humans did not understand any of this biology, but they felt it, they craved it, and they learned through thousands of years of painful experience that certain places, certain animals, certain rocks kept them alive in a way nothing else could. The craving was not random. It was survival. For the earliest humans living on the African savanna, salt was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was hiding in plain sight. It was in the meat they hunted. Animals carry sodium in their blood and organs. A hunter who ate an entire animal, organs included, consumed enough sodium to survive without ever thinking about it. This is why early humans ate everything, not just the muscle meat, the liver, the kidneys, the heart, the blood. They did not know they were chasing sodium. They just knew that eating the whole animal felt right, that it kept them strong, that when they stopped, something went terribly wrong. But as human populations grew, and as humans began eating more plants and grains, something quietly shifted. Plants contain almost no sodium. A human surviving mostly on vegetables, fruits, and grains needs to find sodium somewhere else entirely, or they weaken, they cramp, their thoughts become foggy, they lose the ability to make decisions. And so the search began. Ancient humans followed animals to salt licks, places where minerals leached through the soil and collected on the surface. Animals gathered at these locations instinctively, and humans watched the animals and followed. They tasted strange rocks, they licked the edges of dried lake beds. They discovered that boiling ocean water left behind white crystals that made everything better. They were not scientists. They were desperate people solving a problem their bodies had already identified. And slowly, through generations of observation and experience, they made one of the most important discoveries in human history. Could be found. Salt collected, stored, and shared. The moment humans learned to collect and store salt, the entire world changed, because salt does something far beyond keeping bodies alive. Salt preserves food. Before refrigeration, before any form of food storage, before any technology at all, meat rotted within days, fish decomposed within hours in warm climates, vegetables grew dangerous mold almost immediately. Salt pulls moisture out of food, and without moisture, bacteria cannot grow. Decay slows dramatically, completely. A piece of meat that would rot in 3 days without treatment could last 3 months with it. Suddenly, ancient humans could store food for winter. They could travel enormous distances without hunting every single day. They could feed entire communities through droughts and famines that would have previously wiped them out completely. Salt did not just keep individual humans alive. Salt allowed human civilization to grow. And wherever salt existed in large quantities, power followed immediately. Ancient salt mines became some of the most strategically valuable locations on Earth. Communities built entire
settlements around them, protected them with armies, fought devastating wars over them. In ancient Rome, soldiers were sometimes paid in salt. The Latin word for salt was salarium. The English word salary comes directly from it. You receive a salary today because ancient Roman soldiers were once paid in salt. That is how deeply this substance shaped the world you live in. This is where the story gets darker. Because once humans understood that salt meant survival, they also understood something more dangerous. Controlling salt meant controlling people. Ancient rulers taxed salt, not lightly, not fairly, heavily, deliberately, knowing with absolute certainty that every single person under their rule needed it to survive. There was no negotiation possible, no alternative, no substitute. Pay the salt tax or die slowly. In ancient China, salt taxes funded entire imperial dynasties for centuries. Emperors who controlled salt routes controlled the entire country, not through military force alone, but through biology. In medieval Europe, salt was taxed so severely that smuggling it became one of the most widespread crimes across the continent. Ordinary people risked execution simply to move salt across borders without paying. In India, the British Empire placed such extreme restrictions on Indian salt that local people were forbidden from collecting it freely, even from the ocean sitting beside their own homes. This single injustice became the spark for one of the most powerful acts of protest in modern history. In 1930, Mahatma Gandhi walked 240 miles to the sea, specifically to collect salt in defiance of British law. Tens of thousands of people followed him. A walk about salt changed the course of an entire nation's independence. That is the power of this tiny white crystal. It was not just Rome and India. Every major civilization in human history built something around salt. The ancient Egyptians used salt to preserve their dead. Mummies were packed in natron, a natural salt compound, for 40 days before burial. Without salt, the preservation process that defined Egyptian culture for thousands of years would have been impossible. The ancient Greeks traded salt for slaves. A bad worker was described as not worth his salt, a phrase still used today. The city of Salzburg in modern Austria takes its name directly from the German word for salt. The city existed because of the salt mines beneath it. The mines funded its growth. The mines made it powerful. In West Africa, blocks of salt were used as currency for centuries, traded across the Sahara Desert in caravans that stretched for miles. Salt from the north traded for gold from the south, weight for weight, because both were considered equally valuable. Salt and gold, the same value, the same weight. That is the world ancient humans lived in. Here is where the story becomes completely personal. Ancient humans spent their entire existence desperately searching for salt. Their bodies evolved a powerful craving for it because finding it meant survival. That craving still lives inside you right now, but the world changed faster than evolution could follow. Today, salt is in almost everything you consume. Processed foods, restaurant meals, bread, breakfast cereals, sauces, soups, things you would never expect to contain it. Your ancient brain still sends the craving signal, exactly as it was designed to. But instead of driving you toward a salt lick on an open savanna, it drives you toward a bag of chips at midnight. The same biological instinct that kept your ancestors alive for 300,000 years is now directly linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, and kidney problems in the modern world. Your body is running ancient survival software in a world it was never designed for. And salt is one of the clearest and most dramatic examples of how a substance that literally built human civilization can quietly become one of its biggest modern health challenges. The craving is not weakness. It is ancient wisdom, arriving 100,000 years too late. Ancient humans did not take salt for granted. They tracked it across landscapes. They traded it across continents. They protected it with armies. They built entire roads just to move it. They started wars to control it. Every civilization in human history understood something that modern life has made us completely forget. Salt is not a seasoning. It is the reason your heart is beating right now. It is the reason ancient humans survived long enough to become your ancestors. It is the reason you exist. The next time you reach for a salt shaker, stop for just 1 second. Remember that somewhere in your ancient past, a human being walked an entire day across open ground just to find what you were holding in your hand, and it was worth every single step. If this changed the way you think about something you use every single day, share it with someone who salts their food without thinking twice, and subscribe.